Right then, let's get into today's movements back after the weekend. And I took one trade and I closed it at break even um, because I wasn't comfortable with the distance I was asking the trade to make. However, it was the previous daily high to previous daily low model, and it would have played out pretty freaking sweet if I just held it. But nonetheless, it is what it is. So we're going to go over today's moves, what I was looking at, like all that. So didn't have any red folder news today, noting it's also Monday. And if we just go and take the drawings off and look at the 4 hour, so coming up to the session, we were like looking to inverse this, but price didn't inverse it, closed just below, and has since wicked up and sold off. And yeah, in terms of the draws, what I did before market open, I marked out Thursday's low. We had Friday's AM low, had the Asia low, the London low, and then I just marked out the highs above where price was. So we had this high here by the London high. We had this weekly opening gap, which I'll now be marking in like a red box like this. And we also had this PM high from Friday. So on hourly, that looks like that. We do have this imbalance, but yeah, as we know, price is kind of bearish at the moment. And just for reference, if I take the drawings off and then add the indicators on for previous daily low, previous daily high, green lines, previous daily high, red line, previous daily low. So you can see that model has played out pretty sweet today. And yeah, I made the decision to close the trade at break even for a few reasons that I'll get into. So yeah, if we just move that off and bring the drawings back. So in terms of what I was looking at on the half an hour, on the 30-minute chart, we had this fair value gap here below the London low. So that was an initial idea that I had. We also had the 8 a.m. 15-minute candle. And as you can see, price was pretty much just trading back down into an imbalance here. So though I was a bit uncertain as to whether, we would see a move up or down. It could have gone either way. However, with the higher time frame bias, we can see this model play out. This isn't the normal 8 a.m. break and retest that happened today, but it is something that I have in my arsenal. So it is one of those. So in terms of what happened leading up to the AM session, ideally for the 8 a.m. break and retest, I would have liked to see price come down at the open to then target, this high and the opening gap. However, it just didn't happen. Price continued upwards. We got a strong move towards that weekly opening gap and the previous daily high. And I was watching for a rejection trade off of this level to see the candle closures. So if we go on the 3-minute or even the 1-minute, so around here you can see price trades up, rejects off that level, comes back down to that opening gap, trades up again, wicks the level, but all of the candles, all of the bodies of these candles are holding below this level. They're respecting it. And then from there, we see this displacement downwards, which then breaks structure on the 1-minute there, and as marked out on the 5-minute here, this line. So on the 5-minute chart, we now have an inverse fair value gap after, sweeping a previous daily high or a previous daily low, in this case, the high. And we also have the higher time frame point of interest, the weekly opening gap, which gets traded down through. So immediately off the rip, I'm already looking at, okay, this is a potential previous daily high, previous daily low model. But at the same time, I've been so used to trading the break and retest that I was in two minds whilst like in this trade. So the first one obviously being this model. As you can see, it would have been lovely. My entry was a tad late. It should have been up in this fair value gap here. But nonetheless, we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, pretty much what happened was So where's the open? 9:30 open. We sweep up here. Price starts breaking down, and then I entered short, but I was still a bit uncertain because on the 15-minute chart, you can see here, got this little gap, and we also have this sort of stuff here going on, like the fair value gap and the London low. But in hindsight, this was an emotional close, and I think it's just because I've been so used to trading the break and retest that I don't look for the previous daily high to previous daily low model as much. Even though I know it works, I've seen this happen multiple times now where this model plays out, and because I don't trade it as much anymore, I I'm not used to like how long it takes for the trades to play out. I'm like not as frequent with this model, so compared to like the 8 a.m. break and retest where you're sort of in and out within a few minutes, this is more of a full move capture. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, so once we created this inverse fair value gap and broke structure, I was immediately looking for a fair value gap to form underneath that breaker structure. I don't know why that's not a straight line there. There we go. And so what happened was, is it on the 1 minute? So this candle here is where I drew it out, and I was anticipating an extra candle closure below that before a tracement up, like similar to this. So I drew that out before this candle here closed, and I was just watching it. And pretty much once I saw this move down, I went short, put me in. I should have got in here really, but nonetheless, it is what it is. My stop was above the inverse fair value gap, as you can see, just above, and this was the move that I was looking at. If we do, because I took a tiny loss, 2.05, 157. So we're looking at £157 stop for £393 profit, and a 2.5 to 1 risk to reward. Which I think at the moment for me, risk to reward is more important in terms of like the model I'm normally trading rather than this one. It's a much bigger move for less risk to reward, and I'll go into what I could have taken in line with the break and retest model. But yeah, so from my entry, we're just watching price sort of come down. It initially went straight up from my entry and tapped this inverse fair value gap. So I was a little bit like, we'll just see, we'll keep watching, and then gradually moved down. And as we came into touching the midpoint again, this reaction off the midpoint, see, this is what I mean. This is where like I'm in two minds about it. I was thinking, maybe this is the break and retest here, although this is at 5 to 9. So there's a few things to take away here. Like the break and retest isn't as common when it gets closer to 10 or past 10 o'clock. That tends to be like reversal territory rather than continuation. And yeah, pretty much I just closed it just above entry. Like the way, in the manner I entered the trade, I watched the price drop down here, and I just like had the limit order, or not the limit order, but I just pressed market order with this model in mind. And yeah, I don't know, it just seemed like it felt a bit rushed, and I wasn't 100% in the trade mentally. I was thinking maybe, price could come down to this fair value gap and then reverse off that, or it could just come straight off the midpoint. And yeah, I think ultimately just the manner that I entered the trade like kind of set me up for failure, because it was like I wasn't fully committed to this idea today. And it was sort of more, I was looking for the break and retest, but because this happened up here, I had to react to what that happened. And it felt more as if I was sort of chasing a trade today, rather than, you know, just sticking to the break and retest, even though this falls under the previous daily high, previous daily low model. But my notes here, entry was a tad late. Previous daily highs, previous daily low, entry criteria, closed at break even after a pullback from the midpoint, as wasn't as comfortable with the distance I was asking the trade to make. So as you can see here, 6,885 down to, where is it, 6,832. So that's about roughly 50 points. You know, when normally with the break and retest model, I'm looking at 15 points. So the risk to reward for how long I was looking at it, I just didn't feel as comfortable. But yeah, I just wrote, wait for clearer opportunities, e.g., you know, Tuesday to Thursday. Those tend to be the better days where the break and retest forms. But yeah, so from here, after I closed the trade, you can see price sort of hovers above the midpoint, but it then breaks through it like this, which is an interesting thing to note, because if we look at if we look at the formation of the candles on the 1 minute chart here, you can see price breaks down through this midpoint, completely disrespects it, and creates a 1 minute fair value gap here. And all of these candles are respecting the lower half of this 8 a.m. 15-minute candle range right before selling off. You even get another chance to go short here if we drag that out. One final tap before the move down. And say, for example, I was to take... well, yeah, you know what? I'll remove this now. So say, for example, if I had waited a little bit longer, I would have had the opportunity to, say, get in, I don't know, here off this candle at, you know, 872 with a 5-point stop loss, which would be 877 to, there we go. And then, you know, say from there, 87, what's the entry there? 872, and we could target 10 points. So it would be 10 points there plus another 5 to 5. So there you go. There's a 3.34 to 1 there. And that would have been lovely. You know, that would have been a great trade. And even still, we could have gone for the Asia low for a 3.86 to 1, or the initial previous daily low target for an 8.62 to 1. So there is lessons here. There is definitely lessons here. I could have taken both of those trades. I took the first one and I just, like I said, I wasn't completely comfortable with it, so I closed it. And then this second one was just something that I sort of noticed afterwards in terms of how price was reacting to these levels. So initially at the time, I was anticipating maybe a reaction off of this London low and the fair value gap getting taken. There was a slight pullback, but nonetheless, it was just into this fair value gap here. And then, you know, you can just see on the 1 minute prices just trading down, all the way until 11:03, where the TP for the original trade would have printed. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those today. I did deposit some money into the portfolio or into the account the other day. So I'm working with larger position sizes now. And I think it being the first trade with this new deposit in the account, I just wanted to be a bit more cautious, and, you know, it is what it is. So the actual trade today was 8 pips. So that's like what, 0.8 points loss for £5.92 stop. And yeah, it is what it is. So no complaints. Just could have stuck with this model. Nonetheless, we'll continue to look for opportunities later in the week. But yeah, if I was to completely break this down for buy side and sell side liquidity, you know, if I remove all of this off the chart, all of this, so be looking at something like this. You got your buy side liquidity, your sell side liquidity, and that's a previous daily high. From there, price respects the opening gap, inverse fair value gap created. If you wanted to wait for a proper breaker structure, I think on the 15-minute, it would be this line here. So if you wanted like real confirmation for this trade, like that, you get the fair value gap within that break, bang, enter short, done. Simple. So yeah, a few things to learn. Not a bad start to the week. Could have been a little bit better, but it is what it is. I'll check the news going into the rest of the week. So tomorrow, no red folder again. Trump speaking at 2 a.m. on Wednesday. So maybe best to leave Wednesday, although that may create some manipulation. To be fair, like Forex Factory can be a bit strange with the times that he speaks, and sometimes he speaks at like a different time to what they say. So I'll keep an eye out for that on Wednesday. Thursday, unemployment claims as usual, and then Friday, PPI, GDP, not touching Friday. Simple as that. So Tuesday, Thursday, looking to be my best bet this week. And yeah, I think that's going to cover it for me today. Anything else? Oh yeah, just before I end this, I was also looking at the Nasdaq for how price was reacting around the time that the inverse fair value gap formed above here. So if we look at the body of this candle here, 940, you can see it's already broken through that range, 940, which was this inverse candle here. So I was just looking at the behavior around this zone, just to help me gain a bit more conviction in my trade idea. But yeah, nonetheless, that'll be me done for today. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow.